Great coaches ask great questions. But what makes a great coaching question? In this video, I'll share the anatomy of a great coaching question so that you can be a catalyst for change. Asking coaching questions is one of the core skills of coaching, but coaching questions are not your regular type of question. You are not asking questions to gather information. You're also not asking them like the person is being cross-examined by a judge. When you use questions in the wrong way and ask them in the wrong way, it's likely your team member will feel under pressure to answer them in a way that gives you the right answer rather than the answer that has provoked more deeper thinking from your team member. Here are two common mistakes that are made when starting to use coaching questions. The most common mistake is disguising advice as a question. What could you do if you did it this way? These types of questions often lead to confusion, as often the person will be, do they want me to answer the question, take their advice? I'm not sure what's going on here. So it can lead to lots of confusion within the coaching conversation. Another common mistake is asking closed questions. Did you try this? What would happen if you did this? Do you agree? These closed questions typically result in one-word answers, usually a yes or a no, and they don't invite any deeper thinking that leads to a new discovery. Coaching questions are different. Their primary purpose is not to gather information, but it's really to help another person think more clearly. As such, a great coaching question is really measured by the effect that it has on the other person's thinking. It's typical that coaching questions will be described as powerful. The reason they're described as powerful coaching questions is often they'll unlock a new way of thinking in a person's perspective, and often they'll help break limiting beliefs and assumptions a person may be holding about their situation. You'll know you've asked a good coaching question when these two things happen. Either one, the person says, wow, that's a really great question, or two, there's silence. You've kind of stopped the person in their tracks and they really started to engage with some deeper thinking in maybe a new angle that they've not thought about before. Here are three qualities that coaching questions typically have. The first quality is that coaching questions are typically open-ended. They typically start with what, how, when, where, and these are typically questions that invite deeper thinking. So they tend not to be one-word answers, but invite the person to think more deeply about the goal or challenge. The second quality is that great coaching questions are usually short and clear. Consider this question. What could be another alternative outcome that if you were to decide to take it could lead to a different result? This is quite a long question, right? What you could do to reframe this to make it clearer and more concise is to simply say, what are some other alternatives you could take? To take this to the next level, you could even shorten it further and say, and what else? So this demonstrates how you can really take coaching questions and refine them further to make them really clear and concise so that it helps the other person do really great thinking. And finally, the way you ask the question is also important. Ask your question with a sense of curiosity. You also want to mirror the language that the person is using that you're working with. And also ask the question in a way that resonates with the emotion of the conversation at that point in time. Also, don't forget that as much as it's important to ask great coaching questions, it's just as important, if not more important, to ensure you listen actively to the answers that are given. So whilst the other person's doing their thinking, don't be jumping ahead and thinking about what's the next question I'm going to ask. Remember to listen at all times, and the quality of your listening will also determine the quality of your questions. In this video, I share how you can develop an active listening habit. I've spent the last 5 years gathering great coaching questions. Here are just a few that I think are really good examples of great coaching questions. What would you like to explore today? This is a great question to use at the start of coaching conversations. I often like to use the word explore because it invites curiosity and demonstrates that coaching is often a bit of a journey of discovery. So asking this at the start of a coaching conversation opens up the opportunities for what can be explored in today's conversation. What do you want? A really simple, clear, and concise question, which is actually very difficult to answer. It's very common that when you're working with someone in your team, they may want something, but find it difficult to really express what that actually is. This question invites deeper thinking about what does the person really want from this situation, and can help them to start to build a better understanding so that they can more clearly articulate it not only to themselves, but articulate it to you and others who may be involved in the situation that they're exploring. How might they be feeling about this situation? It's common that in coaching conversations, you'll be exploring relationships. These are often challenging situations that people like to explore with you as a manager. Perhaps that's relationships with a team member, a customer, or a stakeholder. This question helps shift their perspective to think about how the other person might be thinking about the situation. It's common when faced with a challenge that we'll tend to think about things from our own perspective. As a coach, you can start to open up those perspectives and how people see things from different situations. And it's often, once you ask this question, how might they be thinking about the situation, that you can start to shift that perspective and a new way of seeing the problem starts to come to light. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you get all the best insights to help you, your team, and organization improve.